It can feel impossible to avoid a relationship with a narcissist, right? We know they can be very manipulative. We know they're pretending in the beginning. Seems like no matter what we do, they could still trick us, right? And we've all heard stories of someone being love bombed and treated great for months, only for the mask to eventually come off and things get toxic quick. And of course, that's terrifying. But I still believe, despite what culture is telling us, there are a few things that are kryptonite for narcissists. There's a few characteristics that we need to be on high alert for. Some green flags and some red flags that are present in almost every toxic relationship. So here's my list of some mindsets and practices and behaviors that absolutely repel narcissists. Number 1, talk about your boundaries. Remember, if someone doesn't care about your boundaries, they do not care about you. I don't think you should be dating anyone who doesn't actually care about what you need to feel safe, loved, and prioritized. And boundaries are 100% on that list. Now, of course, you can't make someone care about or respect your boundaries, but you can absolutely make sure that you are respectfully advocating for them. Because let's just be honest with ourselves. In the beginning, we didn't talk about our boundaries, did we? If you're anything like me, you were afraid to talk about that kind of stuff because you felt like it would cause them to not like you or choose you. We didn't want to ruin a good thing, right? So let me remind all of us, including myself, you're not ruining a good thing by teaching someone else how you would like to be treated. You're not breaking the connection that you have together by letting someone else know what leads to disconnection with you as a person. You're not hurting the closeness by informing someone where your personal or sexual boundaries and guardrails and limits are. The only time that talking about your boundaries with someone that you're getting serious with breaks the connection is if they were planning on eventually manipulating you or controlling you in the first place. A true narcissist hates your boundaries. They will immediately shame and punish you for talking about that stuff because it's a threat to their ego. For them, it's either control or be controlled. It's dominate or be dominated. And you just told them, I won't be controlled. You just communicated, this is how I'm planning on treating you, with respect and kindness, and I have that expectation for you as well. And we can 100% do that from a place of vulnerability and kindness and mutual respect. We can talk about our non-negotiables around conflict and just say, hey, I'm just letting you know, when I get into conflict with someone, I plan on treating them with respect, even if things get heated. If someone calls me names, if someone starts yelling at me or saying demeaning words, I'm going to immediately leave that conversation and take a break for 30 minutes until both partners can be in a better mindset. Talk about your sexual boundaries. Even if it's just saying the words out loud, I don't get physical until I'm ready. Because that's such a subtle, obvious statement, right? And yet at the same time, this is perfect narcissist kryptonite because you're telling them, I'm in charge of my body. I will not be pressured by someone else in these areas. These are my boundaries. They do not require you to agree with them for me to enforce them. Now, for some of you, you're saying, Jimmy, that just sounds rude and inconsiderate, right? I mean, for some of you, saying those words feels like it's bound to push people away. And you're right. It pushes the wrong type of people away. I mean, just ask yourself, would the right type of person be threatened by you saying, I don't get physical until I'm ready? Would the right type of person be offended by you saying, I take a break when someone yells at me or calls me names? No, they would absolutely agree with you. They would say, I wouldn't want you to feel pressured either. One of the hardest lessons that you probably need to learn is that you might have been conditioned to be a victim of narcissistic abuse. Now, in no way am I saying that you deserve to be mistreated. In no way am I saying that you deserve to be hurt or abused, but I am saying that some of you watching were set up to be victims in your relationship. Because in your childhood, you were taught you needed to earn love. You were conditioned to believe you aren't worthy to be served or prioritized. I mean, just be honest with yourself. When you think about advocating for your needs, it feels kind of selfish, doesn't it? I mean, you wonder if you even have needs that are legitimate. And that's our first issue. How can you possibly expect to have a mutually fulfilling, mutually respectful relationship with another person when you don't even know what you need to feel safe or loved or valued? How can you expect to actually have connection with someone else when you're disconnected within yourself? The sad reality is, if you don't set a standard for how you want to be loved, if you don't set a standard for what respect looks like, I promise you someone else is going to come along and try to set that standard for you. And it's rarely one where you're honored or valued. So many of us started this relationship terrified of being abandoned. So we immediately abandoned ourselves. We started this relationship desperate to be chosen by someone that we didn't even think to ask ourselves, is this someone who is actually trustworthy? Is this someone who I like? Or do I want them to just like me? If we want to protect ourselves against narcissists, we have to stop thinking like that. There's nothing wrong with you for wanting to be in a relationship. There's nothing wrong with you for wanting connection, and there's nothing wrong with you for wanting to be chosen and desired and prioritized by someone. But there is something wrong with you trying to get those things at the expense of yourself. Sure, I'll admit narcissists are master manipulators, right? But what we can all agree on is eventually, during the dating process, they usually take their mask off and they start to demean, belittle, dismiss, or invalidate you, right? They start gaslighting you and calling you names. What do we do in those moments? Maybe initially you fought back. Maybe you stood up for yourself only for them to just yell louder. Maybe you cried yourself to sleep enough times that it became familiar. But the one thing we didn't do is say, I refuse to be treated like this, and then show them that we're serious by taking steps to leave if they continued. And I know full well how difficult that is, but this is the best protection against narcissists. You can learn about all the red flags you want, but it won't matter in the beginning because they're pretending. The best protection against a narcissist is our self-esteem and our self-respect, and choosing ourself and not allowing anyone to come into our life and speak to us or treat us in a way that's completely disrespectful or abusive. Because you know as well as I do, you don't deserve to be called names or put down or touched when you don't want to be touched or yelled at or looked down upon. You are worthy of kindness and respect just like I am. And it took me a little while before I actually believed that myself and I was able to say it out loud. But when I was able to do that, it changed everything. The truth is they aren't your project. They don't need to be healed by your love. They aren't broken and you're coming along to fix or save them. That's how we get stuck in codependent, trauma-bonded relationships. The truth is, love absolutely needs to be conditional, especially when you're dating. You can love someone and that still be a terrible relationship for you. Doesn't always make them a bad person, but if their behavior is toxic, that does make them a bad partner for you. You have to know the difference. Who we decide to give our time and energy and attention and bodies to has to be 100% our choice, right? And if it's our choice, how much access of ourselves we give to another person, then we have to be accountable, not in a shaming way, just in a responsible way. How much access of myself am I giving to this person? And do they deserve more or less based on their actions? All right, the last thing I'm going to say before we move on to number 2, I promise the other ones are faster, is that so often we confuse avoidant attachment as narcissists. And if you care to know the difference, I made a separate video explaining all that and I'll link it in the description. All right, number 2 is accountability. Accountability is the narcissist's nemesis. At the end of the day, eventually their actions don't match their words, right? They aren't reliable. That's why you're confused all the time. Spoiler alert, you're not supposed to feel confused all the time in a loving, healthy, safe relationship. This is a partnership. It's supposed to add joy and value to your life, not be a massive source of stress and contention. Accountability is kryptonite to a narcissist. They are forever the victim, always have been, always will be. You've never heard them say the words, "I'm sorry, that was wrong." Now you've heard them say, "I'm sorry you took it that way." You've heard, "Fine, I'm sorry, geez, are you happy?" But you've never heard, "I'm sorry, I care about how my behavior impacted you because you matter to me. Let's talk about this." Now, I should have said this before, but going back to boundaries, I would never encourage you to stand up to an abusive person. If you feel like you're being abused in any way, emotional, physical, or psychological, the solution isn't standing up to them. It's getting out, getting safe, and getting help from a professional. Having said that, if it's safe, it's absolutely kryptonite for a narcissist to be called out. They are used to dominating you. Even if it's covertly through guilt tripping or shaming, they will absolutely implode if you call them out and tell them their behavior is unacceptable and you won't tolerate it. You have to get to the point where you can look them in the eyes and say, "I'm going to treat you with respect and kindness. I'm not going to fight with you anymore, but I also refuse to be gaslit. I refuse for my feelings to be dismissed. I'm not going to be called names or be told I'm worthless." If you continue to do those things, then you're communicating to me that you do not want a relationship with me because that would push anyone away. This can be a friendship or a parent or a coworker, hopefully not a partner, but unfortunately that's far too common too. But at the end of the day, you have to stop fighting with someone who has no interest or capability in having a respectful fight, right? You need to own that fact, that it takes two to fight. And you're participating in this because you're desperate to be heard, right? You thought if you just find the right words that you could break through their thick shell. That doesn't work. It never does because they aren't capable of listening or understanding your perspective. That's too much of a threat to their ego. So we have to stop fighting. You're fighting to be seen as worthy and valuable. You're fighting because you deserve to be heard, right? And I want those things for you too, but you're fighting a losing battle with them. You're demanding to be valued from someone who only cares about themselves. Do you see how that's a toxic cycle that you can never win? The truth is, even though it's difficult, you have to get to the place where you can kindly but firmly stand up for yourself and say, I am an equal in this relationship. My needs and desires and dreams and feelings matter just as much as yours do. And I'm willing to respect and honor those in you. But if you're not willing to reciprocate that in me, then this isn't actually a healthy partnership or relationship. And here's the thing. If they are actually a narcissist, they only have one play. Push you to the breaking point and then shame you for exploding or setting boundaries or ending this relationship. That's their only play. And it works great because you actually care. You actually care about this relationship with them. So you're willing to sacrifice and overextend and overgive in the hopes to maintain it. But it's all one-sided. They aren't reciprocating those efforts. They don't care about how their words and actions affect you. But if you bring that up, they're going to call you too needy or too sensitive, right? They will push you over the cliff with their self-centeredness and neglect. They will box you into a corner, and you will initially overfunction in this relationship, making up for their slack. To the point of exhaustion, you will start to resent them and eventually detach and distance yourself from them, or start treating them in the same way that they treat you, because that's the only destination for this path. And when that happens, they're going to shame you. They're going to say terrible things to you. They're going to guilt trip you. I knew you never cared about me. Just leave. Just know that you're the one abandoning me. And you will unfortunately internalize that shame and guilt, won't you? Because you were abandoned all those years ago, and you would never want anyone to feel that pain. You've worked your whole life to be accommodating and loving and welcoming for other people so they would feel supported and cared for. And you'll get sucked into that toxic thinking that maybe you're the problem, but you're not. You deserve the same consideration and affection and respect and kindness that you so generously give to others, don't you? Let's just be honest with ourselves. Do you deserve those things? Because I think you do. But what I think doesn't matter. You have to believe that deep within yourself, or else we get dangerously set up for other people influencing our core beliefs about ourselves. You want protection against a narcissist? The best thing that you can do is understand what you deserve and what any relationship needs in order to be fulfilling and respectful. And then you'll more clearly see, oh, this is someone trying to manipulate me. This is someone who is immature and not capable of deep, loving intimacy or connection. They use control as a substitute for connection. This isn't someone who I can trust with access to me. And this isn't about perfection. We all mess up, but mature people take accountability and learn and grow. Immature people find a way to blame their behavior on someone else, especially you. The best thing that we can do is see how dangerous it is to trust people who refuse to take any accountability. All right, number 3 is vulnerability. A narcissist will never actually get vulnerable with you. Now, they might be able to fake it and pretend to share, but if you know what true vulnerability sounds like, you'll never hear that from a narcissist. And I'm not saying that you need to be sharing all the secrets or the depths of your soul on the first few dates, but if you're getting serious with someone and they've never actually been vulnerable with you about how they feel or what they need to feel loved and safe and valued, or what they're afraid of in life, or how they felt when there was a death in their family, that's a big red flag. A safe relationship is a curious relationship. It builds so much trust with your partner or whoever when it's obvious that they care about your inner world, and vice versa. Get curious about their life. How do they feel loved and valued? How do they want to handle conflict? What are the areas of their life that are the most stressful? How can we carry their burdens? There's something so intimate about hearing your partner say, I want you to feel safe, loved, and prioritized in this relationship. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, but Jimmy, a narcissist will ask all of those questions because they want to use all that information against you later. Sure, you're absolutely right. So what's the solution? Stop asking questions when we're dating? Stop answering the questions that someone else asks us? Live our life completely guarded so no one can penetrate the walls that we've built up to protect ourselves? No, because then they've won. They've caused you to wall off and shut down out of fear of being hurt. Now, make no mistake, that hurt is absolutely real, and I don't want you to be hurt. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video. But let's just remember, real love requires risk. True intimacy and connection require us to expose ourselves and be vulnerable to getting hurt. There's just no other way. The solution isn't never opening up. It's simply setting reasonable expectations and taking things slow in the beginning. Talk about kryptonite for narcissists. That's a huge one. One of the major reasons a narcissist love bombs you in the beginning is because we all want to be swept off our feet, right? We all want to meet our twin flame who just gets us, and the bedroom is amazing together and they're showering us with praise and attention, right? The main reason a narcissist does all that is so that we will get attached to them and bond to them as early as possible. So then they can treat us however they want and we won't leave. Now, why don't we leave? Because they used to treat us great. And you've learned growing up that if someone stops treating you in a loving way, that it's not them that's the problem, it's you. You won't leave because you're gullible. Me too. If they tell you you're the problem, you believe them. You question yourself, don't you? If they tell you you caused them to mistreat you, you believe them because that shame is a familiar place to you. And I'm certainly not here to victim blame. You know I'm 100% on your team. But in order to be fully on your team, I have to challenge you and tell you some hard truths that some of us were set up to fail and be victims in our relationship. We were already conditioned for this dominant, submissive dynamic, and we need to be retaught as early as possible how toxic it is. It's our job to know what gaslighting sounds like. When you're already confused and they keep saying, wow, I thought you had a better memory than that. Wow, is that really what you think happened? I mean, you're crazy. I never said that. It takes so much courage to say, I remember it differently than you. That doesn't make any of us right or wrong. Would you at least be willing to admit that if you had said that, what I heard, we can both agree that that was wrong, right? The best protection against a narcissist, or any toxic person for that matter, is having the courage to stand up for what we know is right. And it's not right for someone to treat you in a way that they would never accept being treated. You don't find yourself telling your partner, you're crazy, your memory is terrible, I thought you were smarter than that. You would never say that. Why? Why do you think that is? Because it's terribly rude and disrespectful, and because they would also punish you if you said that to them, right? So stop tolerating from other people what you would never say to them. You deserve to be treated the same way that you treat others. All right, number 4 is empathy. Genuine empathy is kryptonite for a narcissist. Yes, people are going to say that they can fake it, absolutely. But it's our job to know what genuine empathy sounds like and not just the superficial version of it. Real empathy is the desire and capacity to step into someone else's experience and attempt to understand their feelings. The more research that's done on relationships, the more it's verified that the ability to empathize is one of the best predictors of whether your relationship survives or not. This is what fake empathy sounds like. Yeah, I know what you're going through. I mean, the same thing happened to me, but it was a lot worse. You'll be okay. This is what real empathy sounds like. I don't know what you're going through, but I can see that you're in pain, and that matters to me. If you're willing to talk about it, I'm happy to listen because I care about you. And then we ask questions like, tell me what led you to feel that way. Do you remember what triggered you? What meaning did you give those actions? How can I support you or repair this? These are questions that show our partner or friend that we really do want to reconnect with them. We're not just trying to get out of this conflict because it makes us uncomfortable. We care more about this relationship than we do our own discomfort. A true narcissist has no capacity or ability to validate your feelings, even if they were trying to fake it. They simply don't have the skills. Validation sounds like it makes sense why you would feel that way. Tell me more about that. Even if I don't agree with all the details, I still deeply care about what you're experiencing because your perspective is just as valid as mine. You're just not going to hear a narcissist talk like that. You're also not going to hear a narcissist talk about equality. Their words and actions will lean towards dominance. You're the problem. You're crazy. Your feelings are irrational. You're making too big a deal about this. You're too needy. And if you're in a relationship with someone like that, I think it's just worth asking them, plain and simple, if I'm too much, if I'm crazy, do you think this is a good fit for us? I mean, it's an important question, right? Ask them. It doesn't sound like this is working for you. You don't seem like you're feeling very valued or appreciated. And I certainly don't feel loved or prioritized. So why are we doing this? Here's the sad reality. A true narcissist doesn't want to break up because you're validating their worth and value just by sticking around while they treat you terribly. You're communicating to them just how important they are by showing them how much they can get away with and you not leave. You want the best protection from a narcissist? Learn when it's time to leave. I don't care about what type of relationship this is. Once someone starts demeaning you and calling you names and neglecting you and refusing to listen to you when you have a complaint or a hurt, doesn't care about how their behavior impacts you, is emotionally or psychologically or physically abusing you, that's not a safe or connected or sustainable relationship. And I'll tell you the same thing that you would tell a friend if they said, she calls me names or he isn't a safe place for me, which is, you deserve so much more than the bare minimum. Of course, I don't want to split families up. Of course, I'm not a fan of not promoting divorce. But this is what you need to know. If someone is abusive or neglectful or invalidating or dismissive, they are choosing to create an environment where a relationship is impossible. They are actively contributing to distance and disconnection in the relationship, yet they'll be the first one who's surprised when the path that they've been walking comes to its destination and the relationship ends. They will always be blindsided, and they're probably just going to move on quick when you leave. And hopefully that will be the closure that you need, that this wasn't about you. They never had a capacity for actual love or connection. At the end of the day, yes, narcissists can be master manipulators. But the truth is, it really only seems that way because we've grown up blind to what real love looks and feels like. We need to own half that. We certainly can't control how someone else treats us, but we can control how we respond. And how we respond to someone who disrespects us or demeans us or controls us or screams at us or blames us for everything is very important information. Don't forget, if you don't have safety, you don't have honesty in your relationship, if you don't have emotional connection, you don't have a relationship. You have a shell of what could be a partnership, but all you have right now is hope, and you deserve a heck of a lot more than just hope. So do me a favor and find someone who seems consistent with their words and actions, who has a desire to be a safe place for you to be honest, who invites and encourages your vulnerability, and who can repair conflicts with you. Because we're all going to have conflict, but how we manage it together is going to make all the difference, right? Find someone where you're not confused all the time. And lastly, become the type of person who isn't waiting for someone else to save them. Become the type of person who stands up for themselves and knows their worth and value, who can advocate for their legitimate needs and boundaries and desires respectfully. Someone who treats others with kindness and consideration and respect, but they understand that they deserve that reciprocated in their relationship, or it simply won't work. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.